Hi, it's Natalia with Enchanted Herbals and the Rooted Womb. Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm going to put on my herbalist cap and I'm going to talk about teas, infusions, and decoctions. So before we get started, as usual, let's just find ourselves into a nice straight back, lifted spine space. Maybe our feet are connected to the ground. And we're just going to take a couple of deep, slow breaths. Really try to lengthen out that breath. You can close the eyes. As you draw that deep breath into the body, let it fill all four corners of the lungs. And as you exhale that breath, really just let it all go, let it all out. And again, taking in a nice deep breath. Fill the four corners of your lungs nice and slow. Even go down into the belly, the hips, the low back. And go ahead and exhale. Letting out all the breath, long and slow. Maybe allow for the eyes to open. Notice the difference that happens in the body, in your breath. Breathing is a practice. Breathing deep, allowing it to slow down. And the more you practice, the more the body will automatically respond to the breath. So when I teach yoga, when I talk to my students, we always do this long, slow breaths and really link it to how the body's feeling. Link it to the flow, to the movement that we're doing, or link it to the stillness and that time to relax. But the importance of practicing this breath throughout the day and in peaceful times of your life is bar none. You have to go into that state and really know that state to really utilize it when you get into a place of chaos in your life, which you will. We all do. So once you practice and the body's like, oh yeah, we're going to take a deep breath and we're going to relax our tissue. We know this. We've felt this before. And then you get into that place of chaos and something's happening and you're reacting and you're like, oh wait, let me take my deep breath. And you slow down for a moment and you start to take that deep breath and the body will start to react. The tissue of the body will start to automatically react to that breath if you practice it on a regular basis. So it doesn't take much time. You can do it anywhere. You can do it when you're driving, when you're shopping, when you're sitting on your phone, when you're watching a movie, when you're cooking dinner. It doesn't matter. You can do these slow, deep breathing anywhere. So practice it before you go to bed at night, when you're waking up in the morning to revive the body, whatever you can do. But please practice those nice, slow, deep breaths. So I hope that you joined me with a wonderful cup of tea. I love to sit down and have a drink with our tea and a toast. Today I went to Black Rock Coffee. And I got a cold brew, and then I brought it home and added some of my coconut milk to it. So it's pretty tasty. Anyway, so if you have a drink, I'm going to go ahead and cheers to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and joining me. So cheers. So if you wanted to share what you were drinking too, you can kind of post it somewhere. I don't know about YouTube too much. I'm just trying to get the videos out. But if you wanted to share it, then that's awesome. I'd love to hear what you're drinking. So for teas, infusions, and decoctions, you probably have everything already in your kitchen, what you need, all the supplies that you need to make those medicines, other than the plant friends themselves, right? So generally I use a quart-sized jar as my friend when it comes to any of those. So I'm always using my quart-sized jar. I have a couple of handheld strainers, super easy to get. And for the decoctions themselves, which is a slow simmer on the stove, it's just a lidded pot. So it's really simple. If you have a tea press or a coffee press for tea, then you can use that. It doesn't have to be fancy in any way. For your actual medicinal teas, if you have, you can get like mesh, strainer balls. And that makes it just easy to brew the tea and then take it out without having to strain it. Or you can get reusable muslin bags, which are really easy to use as well. For the infusions, I always use a quart-sized jar and a handheld strainer. And for that decoction, like I said, a lidded pan and a strainer. That's all you need. So the benefits for doing these are hydro or water extracted remedies. So we use water and the herbs, and the water is the menstruum, the extractor that's taking the constituents out of the plants and suspending them in the water for us to take in as medicine. So some of the biggest benefits to teas is the actual mineral and the nourishment content that comes with the plant. So it's bioavailable, it's easy for the body to absorb, and it's in the case of infusions, it's like a vitamin in a cup. It really is a tonic to the cells of the body. Our cells need different combinations of minerals and vitamins, fats, proteins, amino acids, all the things that they need on a regular basis. And a lot of dis-ease or imbalance in the body starts with malnourishment. So a lower mineral content of some kind, the body gets off on its nutrition that it needs for certain tissue, and then it starts this cascade within the body of trying to find that nutrition, or trying to find a substitute for the nutrition, or you're just depleting it altogether from that tissue. An easy explanation for that, I talk about it, I think, in my Food is Medicine YouTube video, is calcium. Calcium, I can simplify that down for you and show you this example of how important calcium is to the body. So calcium is needed for the heart to contract properly. So magnesium is for the muscles to kind of go through the relaxation process, and then calcium is for that contraction process. And so they're both needed really strongly to be able to have the heart function properly. And so the body's job is to survive right here, right now, in this present moment. The physical body does not think about the future and what it needs. It needs to protect and nourish and feed and keep the vital parts of the body running smoothly. So your heart is extremely vital. And your heart is much more vital than the bone density of your bone structure. So if you need to, if you're not getting enough calcium in your diet or absorbing the calcium properly, and I'll talk about that in just a second, then your body will literally break down bone, and it will send to the heart to protect the heart, because the heart is much more valuable than the bones. So that's just kind of like a simplified version. Now, to absorb calcium, we need all kinds of friends to go with it. Like I said, magnesium, we need vitamin D, we need K, boron, and you need to be able to assimilate all of these nourishments in the body. So now we're talking about gut health, and how is your gut health working? And are you absorbing properly at the proper time? And are you utilizing what you're eating to the highest benefit for your body? So when we come into talking about teas, infusions, and decoctions, these are really easy for the body to absorb. So they're really nice to get that extra boost of mineral content, vitamin content into the cells of the body, so you can work properly, so the body can function properly. Something else I was going to say right there, but I don't know. Oh yeah. So then the benefits. So some of the benefits would be that if you do have digestive issues, drinking a tea, infusion, or decoction. It's all based on what your goal is and what herbs they are, and I'll explain that. But will help you. Can help to heal the digestive tract. So one of the great things about drinking these wonderful medicinal waters is that all the tissue that it touches, so now you're getting those wonderful constituents with all the minerals and the properties to them that we want in our bodies to actually touch tissue, right? This, our digestion is one big tube. And so now we're getting it all onto that tissue so we can start to heal the tissue of leaky gut, which is kind of the basis of what things are happening, or get the gut moving, making sure you're pooping and the digestion is moving, make sure the liver is moving out properly so you can conjugate vitamins and hormones. So taking these this way, teas, infusions, and decoctions, taking herbal medicine this way helps to heal that. So it's the same with if you have a sore throat. It's really beneficial for the lungs as well, especially when you're breathing in that wonderful, the essential oil part of the plant that what that smells, that vapor that comes up. So as you're holding that warm cup of tea, you're just kind of bringing your face into it, bringing it into the lungs. So now you're able to heal the lung tissue better. And then just the way that the constituents in the body react to the cellular function. So, right, so herbal medicine or food or even pharmaceuticals, the way that they work is they have a chemical reaction within the cells, and they each have kind of an affinity for tissue. And different processes that are going on. So we choose certain herbs based off of what tissue is reacting and how it's reacting. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it tense? Is it boggy? We just kind of start to match up you with these perfect friendships and allow the body to pick up. So is the main difference, one of the main differences between allopathic or modern medicine or pharmaceutical processes and herbal medicine is that herbal medicine works with the body's functions to help strengthen the body to go through the process it's going through. Pharmaceuticals remove the process, right? So they take the symptomatic that you're having and they remove the natural process that the body's having to stop that process. So you stop that feeling or whatever that function that's going on. And that's not always a bad thing. It's a balance between it. Herbal medicine, holistic medicine really shines in preventive medicine, chronic, when you're really dedicated to that healing process with deep chronic issues as you go through herbal medicine and you give it time. It really helps. I mean, I know this firsthand for my body. And then coming into acute. The acute phase of any illness, disease, or anything that's kind of going on, or illness that's going on in the body, the key with herbalism is how frequently you're doing your doses. So when you're acutely sick, especially the first couple, 2 to 3 days, you're taking something every 2 hours to get the body to react in a very proper way and support the functions of the body so it can really fight off what it needs to fight off. So if you've tried herbal medicine acutely and you're like, it doesn't work, I just encourage you to really look at the dosing that you were taking, maybe what kind of herbs you were taking, were they a capsule form, and maybe that herb does better in a tea or a tincture form. So just give it another chance if you've tried it before and it didn't work for you. Reach out to an herbalist and see if you can get something to match up better for you. I've used herbal medicine. I am a clinical herbalist, so I do match herbal medicine based off of what's going on in your body and your life. From chronic illness, I do conjunct therapy with cancer therapy, and I do from asthma to nervous system disorders to autoimmune disease. thyroid disorders, digestive disorders. There's a lot in my repertoire that I have. So if you want to reach out with any questions, maybe I'll be able to help you with that as well. So getting back into teas, infusions, and decoctions. So super simple. A medicinal tea, the difference between a medicinal tea and just a tea for pleasure. A tea for pleasure, like maybe white tea, green tea, black tea, is a soft brew, right? So it's like maybe 4 to 7 minutes. A medicinal tea is going to be a longer brew time, so 20 minutes at least. And then now we're going to get into maybe what kind of herbs you might use in this medicinal tea for what's going on in your life. The parts that you would use is the aerial parts, so the upper parts of the plants, the leaves, the flowers, soft roots, and berries like dandelion root or burdock root and elderberry or lychee berries work really great in a tea and infusion as well. And with those aerial parts, so it takes a little bit of knowing, one, what your goal is for having this cup of medicinal tea, and two, knowing the plants. You have to know some plants we use the leaves and flowers, and some plants we use the roots, and some plants we wouldn't put into a tea. So there's just a little bit of knowing. So I encourage you to start really simple with wonderful things that you can grow in your garden, like lemon balm, calendula, chamomile, mints. These are just great friends that are really easy to make a simple medicinal tea from. So with the medicinal teas, what you do is I have to stop saying I'm trying, I'm mindful of it. I was gonna do it. Nope. So you take anywhere from a teaspoon to a tablespoon of plant medicine per cup of boiled water. And so you place that into that cup, you cover it, and you let it steep for that minimum of 20 minutes. Now the difference is between the teaspoon and the tablespoon is the density of the plant itself. So maybe say that if you have something that's light and fluffy, like a red raspberry leaf, you would do a tablespoon per cup. Something that's more dense, like dandelion root, maybe you do a teaspoon per cup. And you can play around with it. So maybe you're going to do that red raspberry leaf and dandelion leaf together and make yourself a medicinal tea. You could do maybe a half a tablespoon or so of that red raspberry leaf and a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of the dandelion. So you just kind of play around with the flavor. The thing is with a medicinal tea and the brew time of 20 minutes is that the taste becomes stronger. So be mindful of that. So if you're putting in some bitter herbs or you're putting in these really medicinal herbs, if you have a cold or a flu or something like that, then the taste becomes stronger and it needs to be palatable still to the palate. If you have young kids, you can do that same kind of brew, but just give them a quarter cup to a half a cup, depending on what herbs you eat. Like lemon balm is a perfect herb for kids and adults. It's safe in pregnancy, safe for breastfeeding. So you can brew that, and maybe you do a good tablespoon size of dried lemon balm, or if you have fresh leaves, just grab maybe about five leaves or so, and just kind of crumble them up, roll them up and give them some bruising, and make yourself a beautiful tea out of that, and then drink that. So kid dosing is depending on weight of the body, it kind of helps to simplify it. So most of these dosings are based on about 150-pound adult. So you just kind of start breaking up. So if your child weighs 50 pounds, it's going to be a third of the dosing of what the adult dose was for 150 pound. So say for the medicinal teas, and you have this nice 20-minute brewed concoction in front of you. For a tonic, you would do 2 to 4 cups a day. So maybe for a child, you would do a quarter cup to a half a cup 2 to 4 times a day. For an acute situation, I do about a quarter cup to a half a cup every hour to 2 hours, depending on what's going on in the body. So again, you would just kind of cut that dose down for a child. You can even mix it with a good real juice, like a real apple juice, or something that's going to be palatable to a child to get it down. You can make it into popsicles, into just ice cubes, so somebody can kind of suck on the ice cubes. It just depends on what's going on. One of the other key things is with acute sickness is that dosing, that frequency of dosing. But it's also the plant that you're using, matching it up to what's going on into the body. If you have a fever, there's a couple of our herbs that are diaphoretics. They help the skin to open up and the fever to be released. So yarrow, elderflower is a couple of them. There's definitely a few more. They have escaped me. They'll probably come to my mind somewhere in the middle of the video. I'll shoot them back out. But if you drink them warm, they're going to help the body to open up and for you to sweat properly. If you drink them cold, mint is another one. If you drink them cold, then they're going to cool the body down. But a fever is not always bad. So again, if something's going on in your body or your child's body, check with your doctor if you need to make sure that you guys are okay. Or an herbalist or something that's going on, you might want to reach out. But with a fever, the fever is a natural response of the body. This is our way of fighting off viruses, or bacteria, things that are going on inside the body. So you want a good, healthy fever. And little kids can actually stand a little higher fever, like a consistent 101, 102 is not bad. You know your child best. If there's something that goes on with your child, or if they tend to get seizures with fevers, then obviously you're going to do something different than what I'm saying. But this is just a general recommendation. Adults, we don't take fevers as well as kids. So 101 is a good solid fever for an adult. The higher you get up in the fever, the more you start to react in a very weird way. So like you start to hallucinate, the body just doesn't react very good. So we want to kind of keep it into this nice, even place. We've heard of like a tepid bath, not a cold bath, but like a tepid bath, or even just like a washcloth on the back of the neck with maybe dipped in that lemon balm tea, So just start playing around with what you have, maybe as a tonic first, and just starting to see what it feels like. And then if you have something going on acutely, reach out and let's see what we can do to help you and support you during that process. So that's teas. The infusions are basically the same process, except infusions are much more concentrated. So you're going to use a lot more plant material and you're going to let it steep for a lot longer time. It's the same type of plant parts, the aerial parts, the leaves, the flowers, soft roots, bark, berries, things like that. The thing with an infusion, because it is so strong, is I don't usually use really high volatile and super bitter plants in the infusion. It just makes it unpalatable at times. So I tend to use really nourishing, nutrient-dense plants that have more of a neutral flavor, although it will be very green tasting. So what you do with that is that's that quart-size jar that I always use. So I usually put about a cup to a cup and a half of herbs, a mixture or a single herb, whatever you want. And I pour the boiling water over it, cover it, and let it steep overnight. If I need it right away and I didn't get it overnight, I might do 4 hours would be the minimum, but I like that 6 to 8 hours to overnight for the infusion. You strain it off. I drink that whole quart in one day. That's all a dose in one day. And then I like to do a soft second brew. So I'll boil some more water and I'll cover the herbs. So probably about a half to 3/4 of the jar back with boiled water, and I let it steep again, and I'll drink that second little soft brew. You'll see that it still pulls out a lot of constituents in the plant. So like I said before, the infusion is like a vitamin in the cup. This is a really strong powerhouse pack of nourishment that the body can take up really easily. And when you do it on a consistent basis, you feel the difference in your body, in your breath, in how your energy is, and how you're utilizing nourishment in the body. Some great herbs that you use for infusion would be nettle leaf, oat straw. These are my favorite. This is what I tend to use. So nettle leaf, oat straw, that dandelion root, burdock root, violet leaf, red raspberry leaf. I'll do like a little bit of orange peel sometime to help kind of break up mucus in the body. It just depends on what's going on. And then some of those nourishing high antioxidant berries. So you could do elderberry, blueberries, like dried blueberries or dried fruit, lychee berries, things like that to really give rose hips to give a nice power punch. I'll do even like marshmallow root that's soft and really yin tonifying. It's like really moistening, because nettle leaf is fantastic, but it can be drying. So I usually try to add something in there that's really moistening, especially here. I live in the Sonoran Desert, and in the summer it's already really dry and hot. So I usually try to add something to it. So that's infusions. Now decoctions are, you will use those denser plant materials, so like dense roots, barks, seeds, berries, those things that are kind of more, that need a little bit more coaxing with the water to get out. So like ashwagandha, let's see, like ashwagandha, hawthorn berries, eleuthero, a lot of the like adaptogenic herbs, astragalus, cinnamon, like those chai type herbs, those spices, ginger. See what else is really wonderful I usually put in there. I do, if it's like cold or flu, it just all depends on what tissue, what you're trying to get out of your tissues, the functioning of the body. You could do like elocampaign, which is super bitter but really wonderful for the lungs if something's going on, or osha. There's a lot of really great herbs that you can use. A decoction is also the base of a syrup. So if you're planning on making a syrup, we start with that process of a decoction. And with that, you add the water into a pan, however much you want to make, and you, with the water still being cool, then you add in the herbs. And it's the same. It's probably going to be about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of plant material per cup of water. Now, if you're making a syrup, it's going to be more than that. Usually, I do a good tablespoon per cup of water, or a quarter cup per quart, quarter to a half a cup, depending on what you're making, per 4 cups of water. So with the decoction, you add in your herbs, and then you bring it up to a boil. You start to see the water boil, and you turn it down to a nice soft simmer, cover it, and let it simmer for 20 minutes. Then you turn it off and you let it steep. And at that point, if you wanted to add any of those herbal plants, like you would for a tea or an infusion, then you can put it in there and you can infuse it in that water as it sits for at least another 10, 15, 20 minutes. You strain it out, and that dosing is the same. It's probably about 2, I usually do about 2 to 4 cups of the tea, if it's just going to be for a chronic issue or a daily issue, like a tonifying thing. Acutely, again, we're going back into about a quarter cup every 30 to 60 minutes. So usually when I do acute with decoctions, I'm talking about something that's probably going on in the lungs. There's a lot more of those dense kind of tissues that really need to, dense kind of plant friends that are really good and helpful for the lungs and coughs and things that are going on. So generally speaking, that's probably what I'm working on, something like that, or even like an injury and I'm trying to kind of soften the body somewhere. So that's decoctions. So teas, infusions, and decoctions. So the teas and infusions, again, is the same. It's like the aerial parts of the plants. Really simple. Acutely, we drink less, more often. And then tonics and chronic illness, we're going to drink 2 to 4 cups throughout the day, every day. And then decoctions are the same kind of dosing, but you're going to do those heavier, dense materials. Now, the plant material, when you're done, it's always really nice to offer it back to the earth. So take it out to your garden, just till it into the dirt, the soil itself, or find a place in your backyard where you just put the spent plant material out there. It'll kind of go back into the ground, and you don't have to toss it in the trash. So that's a really nice thing to do. Okay, and so I don't remember at the beginning of the video if I told you those simple tools. I think I did. You have a strainer. Usually everything's in your kitchen already. So like a handheld strainer, the quart-sized jar, a lidded pan, and sometimes with the tea, if you have like a muslin tea bag that's reusable, or those little mesh balls that you can use to do the tea. If you do that with the tea, doo-doo, sorry. If you do that with the tea, you want to make sure that the ball is big enough to let space happen within the herbs. So you wouldn't get like a tiny ball, pack it full of herbs, and steep it in your cup of water, because there's no space for the herbs to extract properly out, or the constituents to extract out of the herbs itself. Another wonderful thing to do is just kind of break up the herbs as you put them in. So usually I have loose leaf herbs, so I usually break them up in my fingers as I sprinkle them in, especially like that infusion. As I put them into the quart-sized jar, I'll just kind of break them up and open up as many of the cellular structures of the plant, so as much of the constituents can come out into the water. So I think that pretty much does all that I wanted to say. Let's see, look at my notes. So the benefits: it touches the tissue, provides that nourishment, that life force, right? It's can be really soothing too. So if this is all red and hot, or you have like the stomach thing that's like red and hot, or acid reflux, drinking a nice cold infusion of marshmallow and mint can really soothe the tissue. So it's really wonderful to start to become aware of what you need in your body and which plant matches that. And it could be deep tonics and tonifying because of the nourishing factor and what it does to the tissue, and heals the tissue as well. So that's all for teas, infusions, and decoctions. If I didn't answer any of your questions, or if you have more questions, or maybe you're more confused now, just reach out and I'll be happy to clarify anything that I didn't clarify. Thank you so much for joining me and taking the time to watch this video. Please like my YouTube channel. You can share with your friends and family. You can follow me on social media. Instagram is Enchanted Herbals and The Rooted Womb. And then Facebook is Natalia's Enchanted Herbals and Natalia's Rooted Womb. So again, thanks so much. Many blessings. Have a beautiful day.